Welcome back to Mike on Hong Kong. This is the deep dive where we try to make sense of the terms and trends really changing how we think and live.
And today, we're diving into a big one, brain rot. You hear it everywhere, right? Especially online.
You really do. It's popped up all over social media and comment sections, but now it feels like, well, a genuine concern people have.
Absolutely. And if you spend a decent amount of time online, which, let's be honest, most of us do, you've probably had that nagging thought, is all this scrolling, these endless short videos, actually doing some kind of permanent damage?
That's the core anxiety, isn't it? And it's exactly why we need this deep dive. So first question, is brain rot a real, medical condition?
Well, no. Not in a formal diagnostic sense, not yet anyway. But the worry itself is so widespread, so real to people, that Oxford University Press actually named it their word of the year for 2024.
Wow, okay. Word of the year. That says something.
It does. And their definition, I think, really gets at what people are worried about. They define it as the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state.
Great.
Caused by spending too much time consuming, and this is the key part, trivial or unchallenging material online.
Ah, so it's not just any online stuff. It's the low quality, maybe passive consumption.
Exactly. The focus is shifting towards the quality of the digital diet, not just the screen itself.
Which brings us neatly to that analogy from Dr. Adriana Benitez, she called it.
Junk food for the brain.
Yeah, that one really sticks. It's easy to consume, it fills the time, but it gives you basically zero mental nutrition.
Precisely. It's palatable, maybe even addictive, but not nourishing. So our mission today is to cut through that, the slightly dramatic term brain rot.
Right. Get past the label.
And show you what the experts are actually concerned about. It's maybe less about your brain physically melting and more about what you're missing out on during those hours online. We'll look at the sources, the real risks, and give some solid advice, whether you're listening as a student, a parent, or just, anyone trying to navigate this digital world.
Okay, let's start with the scale. Because to grasp the potential impact, you need to see just how much time we're talking about. It's kind of staggering.
It really is. If you look at the U.S., for example, the CDC, that's the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they found that about half of all teenagers spend 4 hours or more on screens each day.
4 hours plus. And that's outside of schoolwork.
That's right. Outside of necessary school tasks.
Wow. Okay. And what about adults? Is it any better?
Not really, no. Globally, estimates suggest adults average potentially over 6 hours a day online. Phones, laptops, tablets, it all adds up.
6 hours? That's a huge slice of our waking lives.
It's enormous.
You'd think then, with that much time involved, we'd have, clear public health guidelines like we do for diet or exercise.
That's the surprising part, or maybe not surprising, depending on how you look at it. There are currently no official federal health guidelines in the U.S. setting limits for daily screen time for teens or for adults.
No guidelines, despite everyone doing it for hours a day. That seems odd.
It points to this bigger issue of scientific uncertainty. Dr. Benitez actually highlights this. She says researchers still lack sufficient data to fully understand the concept of brain rot clinically.
So the science hasn't quite caught up with the slang term or even the behavior itself?
Pretty much. She notes there really isn't a coherent science around it yet. We're collecting vast amounts of data on what people do online, but understanding the long-term cognitive or neurological impact, that's still very much developing.
Okay, so maybe brain rot isn't a specific diagnosis, but we can see links between heavy screen use and negative feelings, right? You mentioned the CDC data earlier.
Yes, and that's a crucial connection. Even without the label, the data shows something's going on. That same CDC report found that 1 in 4 teenagers who are frequent scrollers also report feeling anxious or depressed.
1 in 4. That's significant.
It is. It shows a clear correlation between the behavior and mental health outcomes, even if we can't yet draw a direct causal line to, structural brain changes called rot.
Right, so it tells us something is happening, something potentially detrimental is linked to all this scrolling.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's tackle that structural question head on. Because rot implies decay, physical change. Are these hours online literally altering our brain's wiring?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And experts like Dr. Costantino Idicola, who directs the Feel Family Brain and Mind Research Institute, offer a really important perspective here.
Okay, what's his take?
He suggests the main harm might not be the screen actively damaging the brain structure, but rather what isn't happening while you're staring at it. It's about the displacement.
The opportunity cost. So what are we losing? What vital experiences the brain, especially a developing brain, missing out on?
Dr. Idekola argues pretty strongly that brain development needs a diversity of exposures. Think about it. Rich sensory input, complex social cues, physical movement.
Real-world stuff.
Yes. And when someone, particularly a child or teen, spends hours passively consuming screen content, that time directly replaces other activities. Things like playing outside, sports, and maybe most importantly, face-to-face human interaction.
That substitution idea feels key. But let me push back a bit. What if the screen time is complex, like, say, learning to code online, or playing a really intricate strategy game, or even using a detailed fitness app? Isn't that also exposure?
That's a fair point. And yes, not all screen time is created equal. But Dr. Ayadekola's argument focuses on the type of complexity. He suggests that even sophisticated digital interactions often lack the full spectrum of input you get from, say, a real-time conversation with another person.
How so? What's missing?
Think about all the micro cues in a face-to-face chat. Body language, tone of voice changes, subtle emotional expressions, unexpected sensory details in the environment. It's this constant, incredibly rich, unpredictable feedback loop.
Right. You don't get that same immediate, subtle reaction, the slight wince, the shared glance from an avatar, or even necessarily a video call in the same way.
Exactly. You lose a lot of that nuance, that raw, messy reality. Most digital interfaces, by design, tend to smooth over that complexity, make it more predictable, more curated. And it's navigating that messy reality that really exercises the social and executive function parts of our brain.
Okay, that makes sense. It's the difference between a simulation and the real thing, essentially.
In many ways, yes.
So if substitution is the issue with time spent, let's pivot back to the content, the junk food aspect Dr. Benitez mentioned.
Right, because it's not just about the hours, it's about what you're consuming during those hours. Her warning is pretty direct. Consuming huge amounts of low quality, maybe very negative or highly sensationalized online content. Well, that can start to warp your perception of reality.
If your main window onto the world is, say, a constant stream of outrage or bad news,
that's bound to affect your mental health, your outlook. And beyond distorting reality, there's also just the sheer mental exhaustion.
Oh, yeah. Doom scrolling fatigue. We've all been there. Feeling completely drained after just scrolling through negative stuff.
That fatigue is real. Constantly cycling through high arousal, often negative, content just taxes your cognitive resources. It wears you down.
And this isn't just anecdotal, right? There are larger studies linking this kind of use to broader problems.
Yes, absolutely. This connects to findings from major studies, like the ABCD study you mentioned earlier.
Let's unpack that one a bit. ABCD Adolescent Brain Cognitive Development Study. What did it find?
So the ABCD study is huge. It's the biggest long-term study of child brain development in the U.S. And a 2024 analysis looks specifically at screen time.
And the results?
They found significant correlations. Higher amounts of screen time were linked with more mental health challenges. Things like depression, anxiety, ADHD symptoms, and even oppositional defiant disorder, or ODD.
Wow. So clear links to recognized mental health conditions.
Yes. Correlational links, it's important to stress, it doesn't prove causation alone, but strong links nonetheless.
And wasn't there also a connection to physical symptoms? Which sounds a bit strange at first.
It does, but yes. The analysis also found links between more screen time and things like unexplained physical pain, dizziness, or nausea in these adolescents.
Okay. And other studies have looked at cognitive effects, too.
Right. Other research points towards heavy online use, potentially leading to things like emotional desensitization, becoming less affected by things, also cognitive overload, just feeling overwhelmed, negative self-worth, often from social media comparison, and, importantly, impaired executive functions.
Executive functions like memory, planning.
Exactly. Memory, planning, decision-making skills, the sort of higher-level thinking processes that are crucial for navigating life effectively.
That's quite a list of potential downsides from just consuming this junk food for the brain.
It really underscores the stakes.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but, we have to be realistic, as Dr. Benitez points out, screens are completely woven into modern life now.
Can't escape them. Schoolwork, banking, socializing, it's all happening online to some extent.
Precisely. So preaching total abstinence just isn't practical or helpful. We can't just tell people to throw away their phones.
Right. It's like saying, don't use roads because cars can crash. We need strategies for safe and healthy use, not just avoidance. So where do we begin? What are the practical steps?
The focus has to shift towards curating a healthier digital diet, like with food.
Okay, how? Let's start with parents or adults looking after kids.
For them, a key responsibility is to actively curate the content. Know what your kids are consuming, ensure it's generally high quality, age appropriate, and importantly, that it doesn't lead to that mental fatigue or exposure to really distorting or harmful stuff.
So being an active gatekeeper, not just setting time limits.
Exactly. Quality control is huge, but then responsibility also falls on the user, and this applies to adults just as much as kids.
Which is?
Critical thinking. This came strongly in the source material. You can't just passively let content wash over you. You need to engage your brain, question what you're seeing, think about the source, the intent. Be an active, not passive consumer.
Intentionality, being mindful about how you're using the screen, not just that you're using it.
That's the core of it.
Okay, let's get super practical. If someone listening wants to make one change tonight, what's the top recommendation?
Sleep hygiene. Hands down. Dr. Bantez specifically warns against scrolling right before bed.
Why is that so bad?
2 reasons mainly. First, consuming arousing information, whether it's exciting, stressful, or just engaging, wakes your brain up when it should be winding down. Second, the light exposure from the screen itself messes with your melatonin production, which is crucial for regulating sleep.
So put the phone away, maybe an hour before bed.
Ideally, yes. Give your brain a chance to switch off properly.
Okay, that's concrete. What about the overall approach? Back to the junk food idea.
Moderation and purpose. It's the classic advice, but it holds true. Like you said, 1 bag of chips won't wreck your health, but a diet of chips will.
So some screen time is okay, even good.
Absolutely. The experts we looked at all agree. Some screen use is healthy and positive. Think about using it for learning, for genuine connection, for creativity. The American Academy of Pediatrics, for instance, suggests families create screen time plans together.
Plans that focus on positive uses.
Yes, encouraging activities that build skills or strengthen relationships, rather than just passive scrolling.
That links back to Dr. Ayadakula's point about purposeful use, doesn't it? Using the tool for a specific, appropriate reason.
Exactly. He stresses it needs to be purpose-appropriate, using technology for school, work, connecting with family. That's fine. That's modern life. The danger zone is when it slips into addictive, mindless replacement behavior.
Filling time instead of using time.
Precisely. So the mantra really is everything in moderation and use it with intention.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up then. If we synthesize everything we've discussed for you listening, this whole brain rot panic, it seems less about the physical device literally rotting your brain.
Right. It's much more about 2 things. First, the substitution replacing rich, complex, real-world experiences, especially face-to-face interaction, with simpler digital ones.
And second, the content consuming too much low-quality, mentally exhausting junk food information.
So being truly well-informed today isn't just about knowing facts. It's about understanding your own information diet. Not just how many hours you're online, but the quality and complexity of what you're engaging with during that time.
Because the real risk might be that slow, quiet fading of the essential cognitive and social skills that only get sharpened by dealing with messy, unpredictable reality.
Well put.
Which leads us to our final thought for you to chew on. If the biggest danger is losing that complex, nuanced sensory feedback loop, the human element that digital interactions often lack, then maybe the challenge isn't just about spending less time online, but about figuring out how to make the time we do spend more demanding, more complex, more human. Can we actually use these tools, often designed for simplicity, to foster the very complexity our brains seem to need?
That's a fascinating question. How do we leverage technology not as a replacement, but as a facilitator for deeper engagement and connection?
Something for all of us parents, educators, tech designers, and users to really think about.
Definitely a crucial question for the future. Thanks for exploring this with us.
And thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time on Mike on Hong Kong.